Welcome, ladies and gents. This is Ken reporting live. Glad you could join me in the podcast. Before we begin, do not forget to smash that like button, subscribe to my channel, and I highly encourage you to share this with your family and friends. Let us begin today's topic that has been dominating the world media for months, the coronavirus. It all began back on November of 2019 in the Hubei province, Wuhan, China. The first coronavirus case began with the 55-year-old individual who was suspected to be the first one to come in contact with COVID-19. Back in December 31st of 2019, China reported a significant number of cases of pneumonia in people that were associated with Huanan Seafood Wholesale Market in Wuhan, Hubei province. However, back in January 7th of 2020, Chinese medical authorities discovered that the people suffering with pneumonia were associated with the novel coronavirus. By January 30, approximately 10,000 cases have been reported in at least 21 countries, including the very first case that was reported back in January 20th in the United States. Scientists have reason to believe that the coronavirus came from a bat, and the virus somehow came into contact with another animal, and from there came into contact with humans. The doctors and the scientists are now trying to trace the virus back to the source from where and when it started to better learn how the virus spread. Back in January 19 of 2020, a 35-year-old went to an emergency clinic in Snohomish County, Washington, who had been coughing for 4 days straight and had a fever. He disclosed some information that he came back from Wuhan 4 days prior, received a health alert from the CDC about a virus outbreak in China, and was exhibiting symptoms. The doctors conducted several tests and revealed the following information of the patient: that he had a body temperature of 37.2 degrees Celsius, which is converted to 98.96 degrees in Fahrenheit. He had a pulse of 110 beats per minute, very high blood pressure, and blood and oxygen flow was normal. 24 hours after admission to the clinic and after conducting a swab, the CDC verified that the patient tested positive for coronavirus. The patient was then transferred to an airborne isolation unit at Providence Regional Medical Center for further observation, as medical personnel were instructed to take more precautions. When he was admitted, he was suffering from a constant cough and was vomiting and was nauseous for 2 days straight with no shortage of breath or chest pain. Between the second and the fifth day, he was not only still coughing, but was also beginning to experience fatigue. He was given a wide range of medications for every symptom that he was displaying. Eventually, after several days of numerous testing and gradual improvement, the patient's condition miraculously improved. As of January 30 of 2020, this patient still remains hospitalized until further notice, and although the intensity of his symptoms are lesser than before, they are still conducting more observation about the virus. Some of you are probably asking, well, how does the virus spread? This virus can easily get transferred to you by another person. It jumps rapidly from human to human before the victim even starts exhibiting symptoms. When a person sneezes or coughs, the droplets can land onto surfaces, the floor, or on someone else's facial areas: eyes, mouth, cheeks, ears, nose, and etc. If droplets land onto surfaces and you touch the contaminated surfaces with your bare hands, you can easily transfer the virus onto your facial areas. If you're going to sneeze or cough, make sure you're not going to sneeze or cough at someone else and keep your germs away. So in order to avoid getting the virus, you've probably heard this before, but I'm going to say this again. Please stay 6 feet away from every single human being that is around you. Social distancing. Do not get too close to anybody whatsoever for any reason. Wash your hands thoroughly and on a consistent basis. Try not to touch your face with your bare hands. Wear some type of mask every time you step out. Bandanas and scarves are acceptable. For those of you that are not essential employees, such as health personnel, policemen, firemen, etc., please stay at home. If somebody inside your household shows any kind of symptom, isolate yourselves from each other inside the home. Use an antibacterial wipe and wipe down the areas inside your home, such as your computer or your laptop, your mouse, your cell phone or your home phone if you have one, your TV remote controller, kitchen area, dining area, your bedroom, bathroom, and all other areas inside your home. I also highly encourage that you do laundry on a daily basis because it was reported that the virus can be viable on fabric materials and hard surfaces and can last between 4 to 72 hours. Washing your clothes with normal detergent will disable the virus. As a matter of fact, chances are higher for you to contract the virus from one's other droplets when he sneezes or coughs near you than off on a surface. There appears to be a wide range of symptoms that a patient can display while suffering from the virus. However, two key factors, which are age and medical conditions such as asthma, heart conditions, obesity, and more, play as significant factors in a patient. Individuals that are elderly and have medical conditions of any sort are the most susceptible victims to encounter the virus. Patients that are currently suffering from the virus exhibit numerous symptoms like body aches or fatigue, high fever, persistent coughing, breath shortage, and sore throat about 5 to 6 days after the victim gets infected. Other cases show that some patients might even lose the sense of smell and taste, but is a temporary symptom. So right now, I want each of you to do a self-assessment. If you believe that you are displaying any of these symptoms right at this moment, it's highly encouraged to contact your medical provider immediately and get tested. At this moment, everybody, including some animals, are at risk of encountering the virus, and there's no existing case that shows one individual that is immune to the virus. In addition to this, African Americans seem to be more susceptible to the virus because they are likely to have more health conditions, like high blood pressure, heart disease, and diabetes than Caucasians. Even low-income families are also taking a heavy hit from the virus. As all of you well know, the virus has reached every single country in the globe known to man. It began from Asia, and the virus expanded all the way throughout the other 5 continents, including the small islands around the world, like the Bahamas, Montserrat, Dominica, St. Lucia, Barbados, Grenada, and many more. The United States, Spain, Italy, Germany, and the United Kingdoms are the top 5 most populous nations that are taking the biggest hits by COVID-19. Western Europe, which consists of the countries in the mainland to their west like Germany, Italy, Austria, France, Spain, and more, hold almost the same population as the United States. They have twice as many cases as the States and approximately 7 times as many casualties. Western Europe has nearly 320 million, but we, the States, have 330 million. The coronavirus eventually did reach New York and began to spread all around the city by mid-February, and research suggested that the virus came from primarily European travelers. Back on January 31st, President Trump barred foreign travelers from entering the States if they had ever stepped in China when the first outbreak occurred 2 weeks prior. The CDC came out and published new guidelines for essential employees that intend to return to their work. The guidelines include taking your temperature before stepping out from their homes, have facial protection like a mask and social distancing, 6 feet away from everybody, while you're working. Never share headsets or any kind of object that can touch your face. and no congregations of any sort because crowded areas are what can potentially encourage the virus to spread. The CDC director, Dr. Robert Redfield, informed all businesses that if an employee began to display any questionable symptom of any sort, they are to be sent home immediately and sanitize their workplaces as often as possible. The CDC also advised that everybody, including the healthy ones, wear some form of mask for protection. In New York State, which is the state that has taken the hardest hit in the country, Governor Andrew Cuomo reported that the death toll was up to 6,268 casualties, as he stated was more than twice as many people as the state had lost back in 9/11. At this present moment, New York State has more confirmed cases than any country in the globe outside of the states. Weather conditions do not seem to have that much effect on the virus. The National Academy of Sciences reported to the White House stating that there is no clear guarantee as to whether the virus will be affected by warm to hot temperature during summer. However, they also stated through a low number of well-contained studies that with a high amount of humidity and very high temperature, it may cripple the virus's ability to survive in very hot environments. In the exact same report, it was discovered that certain locations that are now in summer climates like Iran and Australia are noticing a fast-paced spread of the virus. Therefore, it is not safe to assume that high temperature and high humidity can decrease the number of confirmed cases. In addition to the elderly citizens, people with special needs are also taking a severe hit. In New York State, about 1,100 disabled residents have tested positive for the virus, and out of those 1,100, 105 had died. Along with these statistics, private service providers discovered that group homes in New York City and adjacent areas were 5.34 times more likely to encounter COVID-19 than the general population, and 4.86 times more likely to die from the virus. Other states in the country have their own guidelines on how to survive against the virus. The standards that Alabama has on their process were known to be discriminatory. A document back in 2010 that had the state's guidelines for rationing ventilators was set in motion, stating that doctors consider withholding top-of-the-line treatment simply because the patient had, quote-unquote, profound mental retardation, or in other words, retarded, and quote-unquote, moderate to severe dementia. Age was also another potential criteria that motivated the doctors to exclude you from receiving treatment. However, Alabama agreed to exclude these standards and all links that led to this specific document on their site. Earlier this month, Kansas Republican legislators recently overturned an order to slow the expansion of the virus by placing size limits of religious services, even though new cases started to pop up. Democratic Governor Laura Kelly stepped in and signed an executive order stating that any gatherings of 10 people or more are forbidden. The governor also reported that Kansas had 1,046 cases and 38 casualties and warned other lawmakers to not reverse this order as it will put the state at inconsiderable risk. Even the correctional facilities are having a devastating effect by the coronavirus. The Cook County Jail, located in Chicago, is well known to be one of the largest jails in the country and is known to be the largest source of virus infections. A minimum of 353 cases are linked to this jail. In the sheriff's office, it was reported that 238 inmates and 115 staff personnel had tested positive, and health officials had concerns, which are now confirmed that the country's overpopulated and unsanitary jails and prisons can become a key source of the virus to spread. This convinced the authorities around the country to let go thousands of inmates in an effort to slow down the spread of the infection, save lives, and ration medical resources. In Cook County, the authorities released hundreds of inmates that have been convicted of nonviolent offenses like drug possession and disorderly conduct. And judges are inspecting numerous cases to see which cases are qualified to have bonds decreased, which would release more inmates. Rikers Island in New York City has infection rates skyrocketing at an exponential rate. In the Westville Correctional Facility in Westville, Indiana, almost 92% of inmates were tested for COVID-19, and out of the 137 prisoners, 126 tested positive for the virus. Back in April 23rd, the Indiana Department of Corrections reported that more inmates have tested positive and the number increased to 128. Based on the department's findings, more than half of Indiana's confirmed cases are occurring at the facility in Westville. In addition to the Westville facility, 52 more inmates have tested positive at the Plainfield Correctional Facility, and at least 101 facility and department personnel have tested positive as well. The American Civil Liberties Union and more rights advocates are currently fighting for the release of inmates across the nation to slow the COVID-19 spread. Even inmates are more prone to contracting COVID-19 than others because a lot of them have pre-existing health conditions. At this present time, there is no vaccine that can combat against COVID-19. Other vaccines like the flu vaccine will not help you defend yourself against the virus. The pneumonia vaccine will not help against the virus. But for those of you that are over the age of 65 and or have a worn out immune system, it would be wise of you to get this vaccine because it will protect you from other illnesses.